I'm here to talk a little bit about the importance of nitrogen management. Dr. Bilo, Peyton did almost a bang-up job covering a lot of the topics that I'm going to go over. I'm probably just going to fill in a little bit of the content that these two did a great job talking about. I've broken my presentation into really three areas for us. I want to start off the story with some of the market trends that are going on. Then I want to talk a little bit about the importance of nitrogen management, and then I'll give a brief overview of what Dow's products of In-Serve and Instinct are all about and what we do within this overall nitrogen management category. So to start the story, the first thing I like to show is that prices for all of the major fertilizer types are going up. So anhydrous, our UAN market, urea market, prices are going up. And the last few years, commodity prices haven't really shot up to $6, $7 like they were a few years ago. They're at that $3.90, $4 mark, yet our fertilizer prices are still remaining relatively high, which has created some noise from the grower standpoint going, I'm waiting for that anhydrous price to drop in the fall, yet they're really not, haven't been dropping recently. So why is that important? Well, the number one investment input, take out land and labor out of this, is fertilizer. So 34%, according to Purdue's study here, is made up of fertilizer. So if prices are going up, it doesn't make much sense if we're trying to achieve yield to just continue to put on more and more nitrogen. It's pretty expensive right now. So one of the big factors that growers have is they got to protect that nitrogen investment in the most economical way. And putting on more nitrogen with multiple factors, such as some of the things that Peyton touched upon, it doesn't make much sense just putting more and more on there. We have to look for ways to optimize and get more effective with our nitrogen investment. We're hearing a lot of things in the marketplace from the Chesapeake Bay out east, now the Ohio, and I'll show some headlines there in a few seconds, all the way to Michigan. We've got Iowa talking about the 3 counties. We've got the Mississippi River Basin. We've got a lot of things going on from a public perception that are driving blame towards the ag industry around these nitrate issues. Growers are seeing it more and more. Universities are providing recommendation. Commercial companies are looking for more nitrogen management tools to help with the issue. We're looking at hybrid seeds from nutrient efficiencies. So it's a big topic in agriculture today. It's not a fad, it's a trend. It's something that is really moving as we look in the next 3 to 5 years. It's only going to get more and more intense. Press clippings here, just picked out Ohio. I could pick any state, and you could probably open up the Des Moines Register and just see about a topic about nitrates. It's a huge, huge issue that's going on here, and it's really, to Peyton's comment, when's the last time we've heard of positive news? There's a lot of negative things going on here, and it's a public perception that's driving a lot of this, which affects our ag community. So wanted to highlight a few just newspaper head clippings from just Ohio in general. Why is nutrient deficiency important from a grower? So what if we don't put enough nitrogen on and crop doesn't get enough nitrogen? Bottom line is it affects the bottom line. They don't get the yields, they don't get the profits, plant's not getting enough of the uptake. So deficiency is a big deal for growers, and with this extra scrutiny on them, not being able to just put more and more nitrogen on, they need to look for tools and different methods to ensure that plant is getting the appropriate level of nitrogen uptake. And that'll help them obviously overall with their bottom line as well as their profits as well. And we need to feed a lot of people too. So I wanted to give a quick example of UAN to show you how this all kind of works from a lot of the noise we're hearing from volatilization. We're also hearing leaching and denitrification. I want to give a high-level visual to give that explanation on how that works. So first and foremost, ammonium and nitrate are going to go into the soil when we look at a UAN application. This urea is the part at the surface that is volatilizing. So you'll hear a lot of products in the marketplace that'll deal with volatilization. They're really dealing at that surface level with urea. There's the agritanes is one that comes to mind. There's an agro product as well. There's several other products that deal with this volatilization issue, which is really big when it comes to urea. And especially as we move to the future, urea is looking to become a more and more common fertilizer source in the corn marketplace. This volatilization is a big deal. And we're also seeing a lot more split application, so a lot more side dress applications that are going on. Urea is a common source during that side dress. Volatilization typically happens as well during that point in time. So once that urea gets into the soil, ammonium and nitrate obviously can be taken up by the crop. Nitrate is not a bad deal for a crop. A crop can actually uptake nitrate, just like ammonia. A healthy balance, a meat and potato approach is healthy for the plant. Urea then, once at the surface, goes into the soil. It'll convert over to ammonium and nitrate. And what we start hearing about when it gets into that nitrate form is denitrification and leaching. And why is that? You see that negative sign with nitrate. The soil is a negative charge as well. Think of a magnet. Negative and negative doesn't really bind together, right? So we get a lot of rains in sandy soils. We'll see a lot of leaching. We may also see some denitrification that goes on. So why does it convert from ammonium to nitrate? Well, there's a little bacteria that starts the whole process called Nitrosomonas. Nitrosomonas starts converting that ammonium over to a nitrate level. And simply speaking, when you get leaching and denitrification, the percent of your nitrogen loss, and you'll see 30% for volatilization or 40%. You'll also see from a denitrification leaching standpoint of nitrogen loss, somewhere between, some sources will tell you 60 to 70% of nitrogen that is lost happens from leaching and denitrification as well. So what does Instinct 2 and In-Serve do? So first of all, to take a step back, In-Serve is utilized with anhydrous ammonium. So in our fall and our spring applications, you'll hear a lot of folks going out with anhydrous. A lot of folks will put In-Serve in with their anhydrous to protect that nitrogen in the fall and the spring. Our other product that is a water-based product is called Instinct 2. Instinct 2 is used with UAN, urea, as well as liquid manure and some in the dry manure segment as well. So both powered by nitropyrin, which is our active that Dow has been a market leader with for 40 plus years. Instinct just came about in 2009 for us, but we've had In-Serve for a long period of time. So what those products are doing on the real surface here is they are inhibiting that bacteria I talked about from Nitrosomonas. So Instinct and In-Serve, all we do is inhibit that conversion from ammonium to nitrate. And why is that important to prolong that? Because ammonium is a positive form, and as I mentioned, soil is a negative form. Thinking of a magnet, it binds together, so when we get a lot of those rains, we're less susceptible to leaching and or denitrification if we're able to keep that nitrogen with the soil. So that's really all Instinct 2 and In-Serve do from an agronomic standpoint. Dr. Bilo showed the nitrogen uptake slide, so why is that important? This is a spring application slide, but a lot of growers go out in the fall with a heavy application of nitrogen. They also go out in the spring with a heavy application of nitrogen in that March or April timeframe. We'll take a look at actual uptake that occurs between March to June. Not too much is happening during that period of time from a plant need of nitrogen. And as Dr. Bilo mentioned, once we get to about that V6, V12 period, the crop really starts uptaking its nitrogen itself. So think about during that time, that 6 to 8 weeks, what's happening in May and June, and April even? A lot of rain. We get our highest amounts of rainfall in our major corn belt areas during that May and June time period. What happens in that, if we're converting over to that nitrate that I mentioned before? We're very susceptible to leaching and denitrification, and that crop is not uptaking at that point in time. So there's a lot of loss that's happening from a grower. So that's why when we look at products such as Instinct and In-Serve and the other products that are dealing with volatilization, where they're trying to protect that nitrogen from being either washed away or volatilized off up until its actual need, which is happening there in that mid-June time period all the way through July. And then some interesting statistics there as well. Denitrification, it's 10% lost in 3 days of a saturated soil, and then 10% each day after that. So if you think of 5 days worth, that's about 30% of nitrogen that can be lost from a saturated soil. So DAS nitrogen stabilizers. So we've been around for 40 years. One of the major things that we obviously do from a grower's perception, from economics, is yield, right? If we're getting more nitrogen, we're keeping it more at the root zone, we're enabling that grower to see some economic results. In the fall, we see around a 7% return for that grower, and then in the springtime, around 5%. But more importantly, too, for that grower, we're keeping more nitrogen towards the root zone. So we're reducing some of the leaching, around 16%, and also greenhouse gas emissions as well, around 45 to 50% as well. So soil retention increases by 22 to 28%. So I'm going to pause here and open it up to any questions that the group has around Instinct and In-Furrow from Dow AgroSciences nitrogen stabilizer portfolio, or anything moving into the future that you guys may have questions on. And do you mind mentioning which competitive products I can maybe help compare? Okay. Yeah, well, there's really two segments. You got the urease inhibitor segment, which is dealing with the volatilization that's going on in the marketplace, and there's a lot of products that are dealing with volatilization today. Our products, we don't deal with volatilization. We're dealing with nitrification, and we're the only product that's EPA registered today that deals with nitrification, and that's around that conversion of ammonium to nitrate. So with that being said, when you look at us compared to some of our competitors, we're really the only ones dealing in nitrification today versus some of the other products that are dealing with that volatilization. Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about how In-Furrow is incorporated with anhydrous ammonia?
Yeah, so they usually direct injected with, so there's two methods. So first, they'll either put it into they have economy control systems, what we call it, in a Raven sidekick. An economy controls will put it right into the tank, and it'll go out and just direct inject into the field. Or we also have a Raven sidekick, so it sits as a shuttle on a toolbar, and then they'll inject it in with the anhydrous.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you give us any idea of how farmer use of these stabilizers has increased over the years?
Yeah. I'll start it to 2009. In 2009 is really where we saw a huge uptick in the overall nitrogen management category for Dow AgroSciences. And one of the driving forces for us was we were really only an In-Furrow company. From 1974 to about 2009, we really just used In-Furrow with anhydrous. And that was a limited market opportunity for us. We had big presence in Illinois, of course, with the anhydrous, and some in Iowa. And then in 2009, we were able to create Instinct, and that gave us UAN, urea, and liquid manure potential. So being part of a third of the marketplace, now we were able to have more focus in the remaining 66% of the overall fertility management place. At the same time, what was going on in the market, we were starting to see commodity prices take off. Input prices were going up. There was more scrutiny around fertility management from an environmental standpoint. So we were getting not only retailers looking for opportunities to offset maybe some of a devaluation that was going on with glyphosate at that time. They were looking for profitability opportunities. You were also seeing a rise in growers wanting to try new technology and becoming yield optimizers rather than saving on costs. It was, how can I get more bushels? I've got these advantageous commodity prices. So we saw a lot more receptiveness from growers to try new technologies. And from a Dow AgroSciences purposes, we had more focus from our team going out and creating awareness and education and promotion because now we were able to get into all fertilizer segments. That answers that for you.